and other projectiles at our officers and attempted to topple a statue in Grant Park.
Officers under attack in Chicago, and all captured on video. Another one of the stories we're covering tonight in our Crime Time segment. Still with us, folks, David Katz, former senior special agent with the DEA, and Jennifer Shen, former director of the Crime Lab for the San Diego PD. All right, this one is video released by the Chicago PD. 49 officers injured during a violent protest.
What began as a peaceful protest at Grant Park Friday evening devolved into a very dangerous situation in which mob action deliberately sought to injure officers, provoke retaliation, and damage property. 49 Chicago police officers were injured. 49. 18 of whom were sent to area hospitals for their injuries. And as we mentioned, this includes a sergeant who sustained a broken eye socket due to a thrown projectile, as well as a broken kneecap.
You see the protesters moving in a platoon-like fashion with the banner that is all connected by PVC pipe towards the statue. And here's where they start marching south in Grant Park towards the statue. The PVC pipe is then taken apart from the banners, and a lot of that PVC pipe was sharpened on the ends to a point, which was being jabbed at the officers. So here's a gentleman dumping out weapons to be thrown at the police, and immediately they start multiple felonies of throwing objects at the police who were standing on the statue. We've seen frozen water bottles, frozen cans of different types of substances, rocks, explosive devices, and then obviously here comes the PVC with the banner that was broken apart and then jabbed at the officers. We had multiple officers injured, multiple officers concussed. Then I'd like to point out there's the sticks being thrown. The officers, at one point, you'll see one of the officers move over, an incendiary device or an explosive device blows up near his eye, and you can see him walk away holding his eye.
I mean, the way it was situated, it was like they were sitting ducks there. What went wrong here? What went wrong? Let me start. David Katz, looking at this video, I know it's make you angry, but what went wrong? I mean, they're just basically like sitting ducks there protecting the statue.
Well, you have a city with a mayor basically has put the handcuffs not on bad guys, but on the police officers. They were completely, first of all, overmatched, unprepared. They didn't have protective equipment. Plus, they didn't have the necessary manpower to move in and make mass arrests. You know, law enforcement knows how to handle this. They just need to have the political will from the elected officials to do it. They're not allowed to take aggressive action. You're getting pelted by water bottles that are frozen solid. You're getting stabbed with pointed objects, explosive devices thrown at you. This arguably is deadly physical force directed at the police officers. The police officers are basically standing there just trying to duck. That is unacceptable, and the mayor of Chicago is an absolute disgrace.
You know, there were a handful of arrests were made, but that was it. I mean, and there's so many more people participating in this activity. Jennifer Shen, I mean, this is an absolute chaotic situation. It seems something has to change here. Something has to change because you've got police who are there protecting a public statue in a public park, and they are just sitting ducks as the crowd and the violence just comes right at them.
You know, I agree. It's absolutely unacceptable. And, you know, I think it just so detracts from the message that was the original intent of these protests and probably the intent of the vast majority of the protesters. And I think we just all have to stop and remember that these police officers are our brothers and fathers and sisters and mothers. They are people just like us, and to put them in a position where they cannot protect themselves without, I mean, they just can't protect themselves. And in this situation, they were put in a place where they didn't have the wherewithal to make sure that they were safe. And it is absolutely wrong. And it is so terrible to watch, and it must change. I agree.
David Katz, are you confident that it will hit a point where things will change?
Well, I think ultimately it will. But you have to understand, we have elected officials who are on their side. We have elected officials, Mayor Lightfoot, who actually is putting out language that says any suggestion of federal help, which is by the way, DEA agents, I was one of those, FBI, ATF, and other federal law enforcement agencies, not to go in and enforce street crime, but to go in and look for people with firearms and concerted criminal behavior, narcotics trafficking, things like that. They're thugs. They're Nazis. Until this woman is removed from office and someone who actually cares about the citizenry of the people of the citizens of Chicago, this will not change. And I urge the Chicagoans to look very, very carefully at what's happening to their city.
Next story, KMGH in Denver, Colorado. A suspect and one victim dead after a strip club stabbing.
An evening of terror at Shotgun Willie's strip club in Glendale.
Respond to 490 South Colorado Boulevard on multiple stabbings and gunshot wounds.
Emergency crews sending backup.
More units, we have multiple patients down here.
After a disgruntled customer of the club stabbed 4 employees with a machete.
It's kind of chaotic. I don't know how many victims we have.
3 victims are recovering at a Denver hospital. 1 has died. The suspect, Kyle Swain, was shot and killed on the scene after police say he charged security and several dancers. Police saying Swain visited the club often and was told just weeks ago that he was no longer welcome because of, quote, erratic behavior. Today, employees gathering inside to mourn as crews continue to clean up the damage. Markings from the carnage the night before still spread across the sidewalk. According to a Facebook post, the club is closed. A spokesperson saying they are focused on the safety, health, and well-being of their staff.
Horrific scene there. How do you respond to a scene like this? How do you process a scene like this? Jennifer Shen, when you show up, what are the concerns here?
Well, there are a lot of concerns. It is a huge scene, and it will require many, many personnel to actually make it through the entire scene, collect all the evidence. But one of the things that's really important right off the bat is separating out all the witnesses, separating out everyone who was there, so that you can get stories from them about what happened that haven't been tainted by what other people have said. So that's the first thing that happens. And then the forensics is just going to take a long time. There were so many injuries. There's so much blood. There's so much chaos. You know, it is just you just have to approach it very methodically, step by step, but it will take them days probably to get through everything.
David Katz, ultimately, you've got to figure out exactly what happened to, come to some closure here in this investigation. But chaos, to me, is the one word that describes what's going on there. You got a guy running around with a machete, going after security in the dance. He ends up getting shot and killed. People in the hospital, another one dead, another victim. Utter chaos.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd like to know how the guy got a machete. It's summertime. You don't have large bulky clothing to hide something like that. So how'd the guy get in unless he just had it and charged security, right at the front door? One thing that bears mentioning, when you have somebody they said they was banned for erratic behavior, I'd like to look at that a little more carefully, because if someone has been ejected from a club, it's not uncommon that they come back and try to cause havoc. Maybe not to this extent, but you have to always watch out for the people coming back to do some damage. So was there a police report made? Was there any follow-up investigation? Did security, did they have, were they notified to make sure that they're watching out for this person? That's a few questions that I would have. Other than that, my gosh, there's a lot of questions that were not answered by the TV report, certainly.
David Katz, Jennifer Shen, great insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.